was 2022, and it was a blizzard outside. I was home alone, watching my little sister Mary. Our parents were always gone, and I believe they were away for some work event. Me and Mary were downstairs in our living room, watching Christmas movies. I remember being super cozy when Mary said she felt cold. Our heat was on, and we had blankets, so this was odd. I went up to get another blanket from our hallway closet. That's when I noticed our back kitchen door was wide open. This was always locked, so immediately I was concerned. I looked out the door and saw there were fresh prints leading to the door. I also saw snowy prints inside the house. I ran back over to the living room to grab Mary. When I entered, there was a man standing over her and trying to pick her up. He turned to face me. He was this middle-aged man with 2 huge scars across his face and nose. He smiled at me. I full-on sprinted and tackled the man. He fell backwards and hit his head on the edge of our fireplace. Mary was crying. I scooped her up and ran out of the house. I ran over to my neighbor's house and explained the situation. They let us in, and we called our parents, and then the cops. They took forever to get there as the roads were horrible. It took almost an hour and a half, but by the time they got there, that man was gone. He left blood behind from his fall, and the police collected that as evidence. They tried running the data they found, but there were no matches. As of this day, that man is still out there. I'll never forget his face. If I ever see him again, I'll probably kill him. There are sick people in this world. This happened when I was 15. We had off the whole week of school on account of all the snow we'd gotten. That was fun, but being stuck in the house for a week gives you cabin fever. It was late at night on a Friday. I was up in my room playing Call of Duty online with a bunch of my friends. My parents were already asleep at this point. My bedroom was on the first floor facing the backyard. I was waiting in the Call of Duty lobby for our match to start when I heard a noise. At first I thought it was coming from my headset, but then I realized it was coming from outside my window. It was a scratching sound. I got up to take a look. I looked out into the snowy night and couldn't see much. Just as I was about to walk back to my game, this man's head pops up. He was older, long gray hair and bundled up in a coat and hat. He was standing right at my window. He tried opening my window. He was saying he was cold and needed to come in and warm up. I yelled for him to get away. He wasn't listening. He said he was homeless and needed a place to stay for the night. He eventually got a grip on the window and slid it up. He was crawling into my room. I ran out of my room and locked it from the outside. I woke my parents up and told them a man broke into my room. My dad grabbed his gun and told me to stay there with my mom. To make a long story short, my dad was able to subdue the man. When police arrived, they arrested him for breaking and entering. He ended up really being a homeless man. He told police he had nowhere to go and needed a place to warm up. I'm not sure what happened to him after that, but it was hands down the scariest moment in my life. I'm a recently single dad. My wife split up with me shortly after our 1-year-old daughter Megan was born. She left me for some guy at work who she told me never to worry about. But that's a whole other story. Anyway, me and my wife have Megan for 2 weeks straight and then swap. This happened in December of last year, and it was my turn to have Megan. I have a little town home out in New England, and we had gotten slammed with snow. The kind that doesn't stop. I had to shovel my driveway almost every hour because that's how much was coming down. Well, it was nighttime, and I had just put Megan down to sleep. She sleeps in my room with me, so I'm able to be close in case anything happens. She was in her crib, and I was in my bed watching Impractical Jokers before I fell asleep. I'll never forget the time. It was 2:34 in the morning. I heard my phone ding and saw I had a text message. I grabbed my phone and looked. It was a picture sent to me of me laying in bed, sleeping just moments before. It looked like it was taken from the doorway of my bedroom. There was no message or anything, just the picture. Confused and panicked, I went to Megan's crib and saw that she was fast asleep. I grabbed the Smith & Wesson I keep in my closet and started checking the whole house. When I got to the front of my house, I noticed my front door was slightly open. I checked my entire property, but couldn't find anyone. That's when I heard Megan crying from inside. I ran back in. She was standing in her crib, bawling her eyes out. At first I thought it was because I was gone, but she kept looking over at my bedroom closet. I opened it up, and no one was there. One of my buddies is a cop, and I reached out to him. They have the number, but still can't figure out who it belongs to. My ex found out about this and is arguing that I'm unfit to protect our daughter. She's trying to take me to court for full custody of Megan. This whole thing has been a nightmare. I feel like such a shitty dad because I do feel as like I wasn't able to fully protect her. I go to court next month, and there have been no updates as to who broke into my house and took those pictures. This happened pretty recently. I live on the East Coast, and where I live, we get tons of snow. I have a dog, Max, who I had to take out to go to the bathroom. It was snowing hard outside, and I usually let him off the leash as he loves to run around and play. We were walking down this path that's close to my apartment, and I do live alone for reference, and I am a female. Max was playing in big snow piles by some trees when I noticed something. A man was approaching us very quickly. I was surprised by this because I'm not sure why he was out here during a snowstorm. He comes right up to me and points to Max. He said that was his dog and he'll be taking him home with him. I sort of laughed at this and told him, "No, that's my dog." The man was up in my face. His face was red and said, "It's his dog and he's taking him with him." He shoved me pretty hard, and I fell back into the snow. He then started running over to Max and trying to grab him by the collar. Max, who saw the man push me, started to growl at the man. He showed his teeth and started to bark. I didn't think I'd be able to overpower this man, so I called out to Max. I told him to come. He's an excellent listener, and he sprinted towards me. We both started running back to my apartment, the man following close behind. We both ran inside, and I locked the door. Seconds later, he's banging on my door, saying that's his dog, and he's going to kill me if I don't give him back. I had to think quickly because he was going to knock my door down. I went to the kitchen and filled up a hot pot of water. I went back to the door, opened it up, and threw it onto the man. He screamed and sprinted down the street. I seriously considered calling the police, but didn't. If I had to guess, that man was on drugs or drunk or something. If he ever does come back, I will call the police, but he hasn't returned, and I hope it stays that way. This happened close to Christmas time, and I'll never be able to forget it. I was a part of this church group that was very active. During the Christmas season, we would go to various neighborhoods and carol to all the houses. Some people slammed the doors in our faces, but most enjoyed our singing. It was a particularly cold Friday night, and the snow was starting to come down. It was getting pretty bad outside, and me and my church group decided to do one more house, then head back home. We get to this house that has frozen icicles hanging off their roof, but they were big ones. I think the biggest one was about 2 feet long. Anyway, we're all standing at the front door and we knock. This old man answers, and he's super grumpy. He told us he doesn't want us singing and to get the hell off his property. He slams the door shut. He shut it so hard that one of the huge icicles broke off and came falling down. Asia, the girl who was standing directly under, couldn't move out of the way quick enough. The icicle stabbed her directly in the left eye. I will not share the gruesome details, but in the end, Asia had to have her entire eye removed. The icicle penetrated her so deeply that she actually has some brain damage as well. It honestly was the most horrific thing I'd ever witnessed. And the most disturbing part, I briefly saw the old man looking out his window, laughing at her in pain. I'll never be able to get those images out of my head, and I feel so sorry for what happened to her.